One of the most frustrating things in dry fly fishing is when your fly keeps sinking. So I'm going to talk you through a few simple steps today that you can take that are going to keep your dry fly floating all day long. All right, so let's start with talking about the leader, because this is critical to get right in order to keep your fly floating properly. I'm starting with a nylon tapered butt section in my leader. Nylon floats, whereas fluorocarbon tends to sink. So this nylon section tapers down to my tippet ring, and from my tippet ring down, I'm fishing fluorocarbon for the tippet section down to the fly. That's so that if I want to, I can sink just the tippet section of the leader, but have the main section of the leader floating. Now this is a critically important step. The first thing that I do before I even make my first cast is I grease my leader. I'm using a product called Paillette Paste by Loon. There are various other manufacturers that make similar things. It's slightly different to the gel floatant that you use for flies, because that's going to come off your leader very quickly and not float it very well. So it's important to have a separate product that's specifically designed for leaders, such as Paillette Paste. So I'm going to start with about the top foot of my fly line here, and I'm just going to press it in, hold my thumb against the line, and pull my line and leader all the way through that, down to the tippet ring, and then I'm going to go down even further, down through my fluorocarbon section, up to about 2 feet above my fly, because that will allow just the very tip of the leader around the fly to sink and make a more natural presentation. Now the reason this is so important is because if your leader is sunk, then the minute you try to pick it up to make a cast, it's going to pull your dry fly under and soak your dry fly. Okay, so next thing, I'm going to put some floatant on my fly. Now I'm fishing a CDC fly today. It's a big bushy CDC pattern, so I'm using a CDC specific floatant on this one. This one's called Dry Magic. There are others that are CDC friendly as well. So you don't need to over apply your floatant, just dab a little bit on there around the body, and that will just help it to stay a little bit dry. All right, now we'll get out on the water and I'll show you how to dry your fly if it has sunk. Okay, so you're out on the water and you've just caught a fish and your fly's got slime on it from the fish, or maybe it's just wet. The first thing that's important to do after you catch a fish is to wash the slime off. Give that fly a good shake back and forward in the water, wet it and wash that slime off. Blow out any excess water, and then you're going to give it a good squeeze in a cloth, or I've got a little patch of Amadou here. This is an Amadou patch made for me by Bushell. I'll leave a link for Phil if you want to get one of these. Give it a good squeeze and squeeze as much of the water out of it as you can. Now with a CDC fly, I like to keep a little rubber band strapped to my pack here. This is a little competition trick. You put the CDC fly through the rubber band there, and you just ping the rubber band like that. And that shakes a lot of the water out of the CDC feathers. This probably works for other flies as well as CDC, but it's particularly good for CDC. Once I've done that, I'm going to stick it in my powder desiccant. This is Orvis High Float. There are various shake style desiccants that you can use. They all do pretty much the same thing. There you go. Now it comes out looking all white like that, covered in powder. Just give it a bit of a blow. That blows the powder out of it. And now that fly is going to float high and dry again for ages. Now after you've been fishing for a while, you might want to put a little bit more floatant on your fly. Make sure the fly is dry, well and truly dry, before you apply any more floatant to it, like that. The other thing that you'll need to do periodically throughout the day, maybe every hour or two, is re-grease your leader, because the grease does come off after a while. And if you notice that your leader is starting to sink or your fly is starting to sink, just re-grease it and you'll be high and dry again. Now there's a whole range of skills that you're going to need in dry fly fishing to be successful. If you want to see some more dry fly skills, have a look at the video that I'll link at the end here. And if you guys have got some other methods that you like for keeping your dry fly floating, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.